This happened about 2 months ago. I haven't talked to anyone about it. Not my girlfriend, not my boss, not my friends. Every time I try, my throat gets tight, like I'm about to say something I shouldn't. Anyway, I do land surveying in rural western Pennsylvania. Lots of private properties, oil and gas contracts, old agricultural plots getting subdivided, that kind of thing. Most of my time is spent alone in the woods with a backpack, a clipboard, and a GPS unit that hates cloud cover. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. Mostly mud, ticks, and arguing with rusted barbed wire fences. So this day started normal. I had a site near the edge of Fayette County. Lot was over 60 acres, hadn't been developed in decades. The road was barely more than a gravel path, and my truck couldn't get more than halfway up without bottoming out. Parked it, hiked the rest of the way in with my gear. The map I had was ancient, like it still listed an old St. Luke's church at the edge of the property line. No photos, no records of it in county archives, just a tiny cross-shaped icon on the parcel sheet. I figured it was long gone. Most of the churches out here either burned down or rotted into the ground after the steel towns dried up. But I marked it anyway, was supposed to do a visual inspection. About a mile in, the woods started getting thick, dead quiet. No birds, no wind, just that weird stillness you get before a thunderstorm. But the sky was clear. Eventually, I spotted something through the trees. White paint, cracked and sun-faded. It was the church. I froze. It was still standing. To be clear, this thing looked ancient. Small, maybe the size of a double-wide trailer. Clapboard siding, crooked steeple with no bell. The front doors were warped but intact. Cross-shaped windows, most of the glass busted out. The paint was peeling like old skin. But it wasn't the decay that made me hesitate. It was the fact that the front steps had been swept clean. I swear to you, the rest of the area was covered in leaves and branches, but the steps were bare, like someone had come out that morning with a broom. I figured maybe a squatter had taken up in it. Not unusual, really. I announced myself, "Hey, I'm with the survey team, just passing through," and stepped up to the door. It creaked open before I touched it. Not like the wind caught it. It just slowly swung in, like it knew I was coming. I stood there for a second, listening. Nothing. But I swear, it was cold inside, like walking past a freezer aisle. I stepped in. The air inside was thick, not dusty like I expected, more stale, like pond water and moldy wood. The place was mostly empty. Just a few broken pews, some collapsed drywall, and a crooked pulpit at the front. No light except what filtered through the broken windows. The floor was warped, boards bowing like something was shifting underneath. I took a few photos, made a note for the report, probably scheduled for demolition. But then I saw the door, back wall, half hidden behind the pulpit. Small, narrow, almost like a utility closet. It was open, just a crack. Now look, I'm not stupid. I've seen enough horror movies to know when to turn around. But something about it was off. Not dramatic, not threatening, just wrong. Like a painting with the eyes in the wrong place. I walked toward it without really deciding to. The wood felt soft under my boots, damp. The door opened with barely a sound. Behind it was a staircase. Narrow, stone walls, no railing, leading down. I aimed my flashlight and looked. It didn't go far, maybe 10, 15 feet. At the bottom, I saw a floor made of flagstone, something painted on it in a circle, and someone was standing there. At first I thought it was a statue. It didn't move, didn't breathe, just a tall, thin figure in a faded black robe. Hood pulled low, hands folded in front like they were praying, facing away from me. My throat closed up. Every hair on my body stood on end. Something in me screamed to leave, but I couldn't. Not yet. My brain did this thing where it started rationalizing. Maybe it was a statue, a weird church prop, a mannequin, something left behind by artists or a culty youth group or whatever. I called out, "Hey, hello?" No response. Then it moved. Not much. Just a shift. Its head tilted slightly, like it was listening. But it didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge me. And then I heard it. A whisper, not out loud, in my head, like a thought that wasn't mine.
"Come down."
I ran, didn't even close the door. I just turned and bolted out of the church across the clearing into the woods. Didn't stop until I reached the truck. I sat there for 20 minutes, trying to slow my breathing, trying to convince myself I imagined it, that it was mold or exhaustion, or I hallucinated it all. But when I finally started the truck and looked in the rearview mirror, I saw something that still keeps me up at night. There was a mark on my neck, 3 small dots, perfectly spaced, like fingertips. Not bruised, not cut, just imprinted. They faded after a day or two, but every time I close my eyes, I see that thing again. Still praying, still listening, waiting. I reported the location as unstable and inaccessible, left it off the site notes. Uncleared terrain, I wrote. Nothing salvageable. Sometimes, late at night, I get that cold feeling again, like the air just dropped 10 degrees. And I swear I hear a voice, just at the edge of hearing, whispering from somewhere below me.
"Come down."
It didn't stop after that first night. The next morning, I woke up with dirt under my fingernails. Thick, dark earth. I hadn't been outside since the day before. I keep my apartment spotless. I don't even own houseplants. I brushed it off. Maybe I scratched myself in my sleep. Maybe it was something on the floor. 2 nights later, I woke up standing in my hallway. Not just out of bed, standing at my front door, hand on the knob. The lights were off, the apartment silent. But I could feel it again. That pull. Like gravity, but sideways. Down and somewhere else. I locked the door. Took a sleeping pill. Didn't dream that night. At least, not that I remember. A week later, I had to go back out to that same region for another job. Different property. A couple miles from the church site. I didn't want to be anywhere near it. But I told myself I was being dramatic. I brought extra gear, loaded my GPS with music, tried to keep my head clear. Late afternoon, while I was setting up a marker near the tree line, my receiver started glitching. Numbers jumping around, compass spinning. Then everything just froze. Not crashed, locked. Screen stayed on, but no response. The light changed. It's hard to explain. The sun was still up, but everything around me looked grayed out, muted, like color had been sucked out of the world. The woods were quiet. Not just no birds, quiet, dead quiet. No wind, no insects, no rustle of leaves. Then I felt it again. That weight. Like something was pressing against the air around me, watching, waiting. My legs moved on their own. I don't know how long I walked, but when I snapped out of it, I was standing at the edge of a shallow creek. I didn't recognize the area. Behind me, there was no path, just trees, and in the distance, barely visible through the thinning branches, I saw the steeple, crooked, split, same as before. Only now, the front doors were wide open, and there was something standing in them, just a shape, tall, thin, still, facing me. I ran again, didn't look back, didn't sleep for 3 nights. It's been almost 2 months now. I've started hearing things during the day. Voices in the static when I leave the radio on. The plumbing knocks in threes, like someone rapping gently through the pipes. The mark on my neck came back last week. Woke up with it. Same 3 dots. This time, lower, just above my collarbone. They haven't faded yet. Last night, I dreamed I was underground. Stone walls, narrow passage, dripping water somewhere in the dark. I wasn't alone. The thing in the robe was kneeling in the center of a circle of symbols, arms raised, mouth moving. No sound. I couldn't hear the words, but I knew they were meant for me, not prayers, instructions. This morning, I found dirt in my sheets again, and this time my boots were wet, like I'd walked through something cold and deep. I think whatever was under that church, it followed me. Or maybe I never really left. Maybe it's still praying, still waiting. And every night, I feel myself getting a little closer. To the stairs, to the door, to the thing in the dark, whispering just out of reach. And one night soon, I think I'll finally answer. Not because I want to, because I don't think I'll have a choice. If this story unsettled you, good. There are places in this world that time tried to bury. Some of them still whisper, some of them still wait, and some of them might already know your name. Sleep well. But if you hear the stairs creak tonight, don't answer. Subscribe for more.